going through some of the duels. I haven't dueled for a really, like, not seriously for a long time. And obviously I duel every now and then, but I was trying to make more of a commitment to get back into it. Wouldn't say I'm fully into it, but I'd say I've been dueling a hell of a lot more. And the first day or two was just absolutely awful. I just got my ass beat every duel I could. Didn't help that I think I'd forgotten that I hadn't paid my property tax and I had my health for Hardy buff off. So it felt like every time, even though we did the testing and we felt like I tested, I was hitting them and I was like, I swear to God, I feel like you're hitting me harder than I'm hitting you. But I tested damage and the damage was the same, but I think that's why, because I didn't have Hail and Hardy. And so that was kind of dumb from my end. But the other thing was just, yeah, getting caught out in CCs. Gonna go through some of the rough fights to start with. Gonna look at why I died, and then that kind of improves later on as I've been dueling and get into the rhythm a little bit more. So we'll go over that. You can see that I'm just hitting air. My biggest problem is that I am just not hitting him. I'm playing really badly in this fight, and granted this is one of my first ones. But, yeah, my big problem is that I just had no rhythm, and usually people, yeah, and I just can't hit him. And he's hitting me, and so this is why I'm dying. So in the next duel, I'm going to show you really, go over in slow motion and show you the problem exactly. Right, so if you look at the first few seconds of this duel, it looks relatively normal. I'm facing him, I'm swinging, he's swinging. But when you look at the damage, he's done a lot of damage to me and I've barely touched his health bar. Okay, let's re-look at that fight that I just showed you, but in real slow motion. Okay, so we come in here, these are the first swings. We both hit each other for about 400 damage. Okay, the next round of attacks, he hits me for about 850, but he dodges my attack. Okay, so now he's got 800 up on me. Okay, so in the next round, we both hit each other again. So he hits me for 1325 and I hit him for 1850. I think he must be using Rogue because he seems to be hitting me quite hard. I don't know what that extra damage is, but either way, he hits me, I hit him. So in this next attack, I go to hit him, but he dodges and he hits me for another 1500. Trade again for 1000 there, about 1000 each. But then I go to hit him again, he dodges it, and then he hits me for another, what is that, like 980. Then I try to Maelstrom him, he dodges it, but then he hits me with his Maelstrom, and he gets a light attack off on me. Anyway, my point being that he's up about 4000 damage on me just in the initial start of the fight from just being able to dodge my attacks. And look, his health bar hasn't even moved because he's just dodging my attacks. It's very evasive. So that was kind of step one, in which something that I needed to work on. We had 20 duels that day, and I think I won one of them, so I wasn't feeling that great after the dueling session, to be honest. Okay, so when you're dueling, when bruisers duel, they'll generally have like a rhythm or a pattern. It's like music, it's like a metronome. I think I've said this in previous videos before, right? So first of all, you want to slow down your attacks, like 1, 2. You don't want to be rushing it like this, because that's how you get stunned, right? So you want to go 1, just slow it down. That way you can see the stuns as they happen. Okay, but, right, so the other thing is it's like a rhythm. Usually bruisers will typically move in a pattern, right? The typical pattern is you go 1, 2, dodge, 1, right? That's generally the typical pattern bruisers do. 1, 2, dodge. 1, 2, dodge. 1, 2, dodge. 1, 2. Right, so that's the typical pattern. However, if you can see what their pattern is, then you can counter it. Now, when I was fighting Newt, I didn't even have a pattern, but you've got to have a kind of a rhythm a little bit. In order to be effective, and that's partly the reason why he was dodging so many of my attacks, and I was kind of getting a little bit flustered. Alright, so this is another guy I fought multiple times, like 30 or 40 times, and I lost far too many. I'm not going to count them because I'd have to go through every video, but let's just say it wasn't a good ratio. But you can see, this was also early on, right? But you can see his pattern, right? It's going to become really clear what I was just telling you before. He's definitely got the 2-1 pattern, which I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so we come in. He always does this too, so you dodge that. See how I just knew it was going to come, so dodge that. Right, here we go. He goes 1, 2. I kind of moved around, so he had to. Here we go. Right, 1, 2, dodge. 1, 2, dodge. 1. And then he does his maelstrom. Right, 1, 2, dodge. 1, 2, dodge. So the secret is to uncovering their dodging, uncovering what their pattern is, and then trying to disrupt it. And then that's going to really help you know how to win fights as a bruiser. As you can tell, because this is so early on in my fights, I have no pattern. You know, well, I'm trying to have a pattern, but I'm not getting a very good one. So he's got a much better rhythm than I have, and see how I'm just not hitting him. I'm missing him. I'm missing all my shots. So my problem is they have a pattern, they have a rhythm. I don't. I miss my shots. They hit them. Saw that with the Newt fight. Okay, so this pattern. This is another guy, Big Whiner, who's also a really good bruiser. So this is still early on, and so I'm kind of don't have my pattern yet, and he does. And you can see it's the same kind of thing. He just catches me out, although I sort of caught him out there. But we had a big dueling session with him, and he kicks my ass multiple times. So I went away. So these were the first couple of days. So I just needed to get back into dueling because I was definitely rusty. Find my pattern and work my way through the issues. You know what I'm saying? Again, at this point, I had several fights with him, and I didn't win one. Maybe I won one, but it wasn't many. So I was feeling very despondent. Very just like, man, I'm just so bad now. Yeah. Right, for right or wrong, I thought I would try something different. And so far, it seems to be working. So rather than having a rhythm, I track them. And basically, as they move, I just make sure that I'm facing them. And when they go to hit me, I make sure that I hit them back. And then what I'm trying to do is I'm waiting for some key moments. So that I'm waiting, I'm going to watch what rhythm they've got. I'm waiting for them to do their maelstrom, and then as soon as they do it, I'm going to dodge it. And then I'll either go for a stun or do my maelstrom. So then that way, they're doing less damage to you than you are to them, and you'll win the fight. Or you'll get the stun off and they won't, and then you'll win the fight. Right, it's slow motion time again. But this is a really good fight. Like, it showcases of what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm facing him. He's hitting me, so I'm hitting him. And I'm just moving around, making sure, okay, I'm happy to hit you as long as you're hitting me. And then I kind of go through a maelstrom. We go through a maelstrom phase where we both dodge. Okay, so once again, I'm just trying to get him in a stun, but there's a little predictable. He goes for stun, but well, he wouldn't have got me, but I would have dodged anyway. Okay. I'm just trying to get us go for a path of destiny because he's far enough away that I can get it off. Okay, so now I'm gonna move in, but you watch again. Okay, so I'm gonna stay on him, right? So I'm hitting him, and then as he moves, I'm just tracking him. I dodged there because I knew he was going for his dodge, and then I just reposition, and then I try to get a grab while on him. But you see what I'm doing? So I'm just tracking their movements, and the main thing I'm trying to do is like avoid their big hits and maybe getting off my big hits. Like, see there, I got my maelstrom off, and then I dodged his. So that's kind of the goal. Through that, I did kind of find a rhythm, but I would easily break it if I could see it would be an advantage. And all of a sudden, I noticed I was starting to beat the big dogs that I couldn't beat before. Now, Big Wino still beat me way more than I beat him, so my ratio was still not in my favor, but I was beating him, and I wasn't beating him before. So all the practice was sort of starting to pay off. I was obviously, well, you see at the start of the video where I was missing all those attacks. You know, I'm not missing them as much anymore. So, and yeah. And just doing that tactic of making sure that you just be patient, you slow down your attacks, and you make sure that you get every hit off that they get off. And at the end of the week, this is a really good example of how that was coming together quite nicely. You can see that I'm facing him really well. I'll go through again this in slow motion just to show you my thinking. Hopefully that doesn't get annoying. but like I just felt really smooth. I felt like I was getting all my attacks off on them, and yet I was able to, because I was just making sure I hit them every time they hit me, but then I was able to dodge a lot of their attacks because I was waiting for the attacks to come through. And this is a classic example of that, so I'll show you this fight again in slow motion, or at least a part of it. Okay, so I'm facing him. I do a 2-1 pattern, but because I'm more about making sure that I'm hitting him when he's hitting me, I'm happy to change that pattern if I need to. So I'm making sure that I'm facing him. See, I was waiting for that to come, so I tried to dodge it. So I'm trying to make sure that I get my Maelstrom on him, and I dodge his. He goes for the stun, and then because he went for his stun, I knew that I knew it was time to go for my stun. I'd probably catch him out, so I managed to catch him out and get him into all my burst combo. But basically, the main thing I'm trying to get across here. So here comes his stun. So I dodged that. Is I'm always facing him, and I'm just letting him lead the fight a little bit, and I'm just turning my direction and reacting to what he's doing. And I found that to be really, really helpful. So even though I'll do a 2-1 ratio, I'll change that if I need to, because I'm just sort of reacting to him and tracking what he's doing. So I'm hitting him because he's facing me. He dodges, so that I dodge around to face him. So I'm just taking my time to get my attacks off, like just going a little bit slowly. And then I'll just turn around and face him wherever he goes. So yeah, that's basically the fight. And then if you look at this, you can tell that I've been dueling. So one of the things that I was talking to one of my raid leaders about to improve in wars, and he said just focus on one individual and act like you're dueling them. And you can really see that coming out here. I'm just focused on that guy. You can see how I'm doing the 2-1 pattern. I'm doing exactly what I said I was doing on those duels, but I'm just dodging them both and just reacting and just not taking any damage, but doing a whole bunch of damage to them. So whoever says that dueling doesn't help you get better in OPRs or wars is absolutely deluding themselves. Because after playing those duels, you can see how effective it is. So yeah, this week I've been really focusing on whoever I've been fighting. I really focus like I'm dueling them, and it seems to help with your periphery too. Like even though you're focused on them, it allows you to sort of focus on something, and it's not like just all this craziness going on, and then you can sort of dodge everyone else because you see them out of the periphery. Honestly, it seriously helps. And then the other thing I've been doing is just managing my consumables. Like I just use my consumables way more, because that was the thing I noticed why I was dying a lot in the wars, was like my bad consumable management. And so I've been just popping them quite a bit, and yeah, it really does help your survivability. And then the last Bruiser video, I found out that I was dying a lot because I keep getting into fights, overextending and not pulling out early enough. So you can see me doing that here, that I get out in time so that I don't die. The other thing is making sure you're using your healing circles and playing off them, and not like, yeah, because as well as using consumables, you'll always survive if you're standing in the hills. And although I did that before, I see them now as like rivers of life, and I just always play off them a lot better than I was doing before. It definitely increases your survivability. The problem is though that OPRs have kind of descended, devolved into just bows and mages again. Like honestly, it's just all mages, all bows, so it ain't much fun playing a bruiser. So I think for the next week I'll try to come up with some successful strategies on how to survive OPRs as like a bruiser, because it is rough. Look at this. Look at all those range players right there. Nothing but mages and bows, their whole team. Oh, and this healer, who becomes my target pretty damn quickly, because I'm like, well, if you go down, then everyone else comes a little bit. But look at them, they just scatter like cockroaches. Ugh. Anyway, I promise you, the next Bruiser video that comes out in the next week is going to be focusing on how to survive as Bruiser in the bow mage meta. I promise that is what's going to come. In terms of wars, I had some really good input from everybody. I checked with people who watched my VODs. I showed my VOD on YouTube, and a lot of people commented and gave really good feedback. So the first point I want to come across is I appreciate that I need to work better with my team and improve the teamwork, so that's something I want to do. But I guess we weren't communicating, so I still want to make the best of that situation. So I guess what I was trying to come across is what could have I done better given that our team wasn't really communicating, but obviously that's something we need to work on. Some of the things we worked on was stamina management, just needing to use my dodges a little bit more if it means I can avoid some damage. Fighting on the edge, so not pushing really deep in, and just fighting on the edge so you don't get absolutely smashed. One of the biggest things I found which really helped was, standing in the healing circles and using them like rivers. That really helped increase my survivability. So that really helped. Just seeing those healing circles, just playing off them and knowing that's where you need to be going to, because that's where you're going to be getting supported. And focusing on the player. This is what the OG told me, the raid leader. He was just like, and that really helped too. Like just focusing on the player in front of me, focusing really hard on them, and then it sort of just allows you to focus on something, and everything, all the chaos that's happening around you, you're kind of tuned in on one thing, but you still see that everything that's happening around you, despite the fact that you're doing that. In fact, if anything, it helps to sort of minimize the noise a little bit. And then the other was just spamming consumables. So these have all been helping. Hoping to have a war shortly where I can go over some of the things that have improved and some of the mistakes I'm still making. So that'll be a work in progress. I've still got a long way to go to get really good in wars, but I'm approaching that in the same way as I'm approaching my dueling, same way as I'm approaching my OPRs and stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. I really, really, really appreciate it. And, yeah. We'll talk soon. See you soon. Bye, friends. Alright. Here's the medium armor build that I've been using OPRs and duels. If you want the full builds and a bit of a breakdown, I have done a build video recently, so use that. It's the same gear. But for all intents and purposes, I'll just switch over to the medium armor build. And then let's go. I'm going to do this kind of quickly. Oh, that is that. That's the heavy. That's the medium. Okay. Right, so I'm on 300 con, 200 strength. And, yeah, and so the gear that I'm using is... This is my Warhammer, Sundering, Shockwave, and a Boreal Attunement, and the important ones. The Paid Crits was the third trait, which I thought was quite a nice one to have with a Warhammer. And then with the Great Axe, I'm using Enfeebling Maelstrom and Thwarting Strikes, which are the two important traits to have, and then I'm using Keenly Jagged just as a little bit of damage to it. I'm using all Punishing Rune Glass Gems, and then I'm using Opals on the weapons. And I have... I'm using Elemental Aversion on medium armor. I don't think Shirking Fort is worth it, so I've put everything into physical, so 10% thrust damage, because I don't find bows too much of a problem. I'd never chased them out in the open field anyway, and then 35% damage for slash damage resistance, because that's the biggest amount of damage I'll be taking. I have 5 resilience. I believe I have 4 or 5 refreshing ward. That's 2, 3, yeah, 5 refreshing ward, because I have 2 on my jewelry. And then I have 5 resilience, and I believe I have 3 freedom. 3 freedom. Yep, and then I have 5 elemental aversion. And this is, 4 elemental aversion. And this is what I mean, I've been able to replace, not use that Gravwell, right? Perk. And so that's given me more space to have those really important traits like elemental aversion, refreshing ward, and all that. So this is the gear that I'm running on the medium armor. And then for the jewelry, I'm using slash protection, health, and then the refreshing ward for the amulet. I'm using slash damage and invigorated punishment. Are the 2 important traits here, and I'm just using leeching because it helps a little bit. Because you don't need the extra stamina as medium. And then I'm using refreshing ward, refreshing toast, regenerate. And the reason I have dexterity on it is because this allowed me to get this ring for 3k gold. And it's not like you need the extra 10 dex, because when you're full 65, you can still go 300 con, 200 strength, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm using Detonate at the moment for my Major Heart Rune. So hopefully that... Oh, and then the skills, sorry. Let's do that real quick. Don't worry about this. This was just me testing on heavy armor, so it's spit out. It's 300 con, 200 strength. I'm just going to quickly show you. You guys can just memorize it. And then, yeah, that's the Great Axe. Maulers Fury is obviously the important one. So memorize that. And then for Warhammer, that's the Warhammer. Okay, Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm quite happy with this video. I feel like there's a lot that we covered, from wars to duels to clump fights to like theory crafting. So I'll definitely be doing more of this style of video. So if you like it, you know what I'm going to say. Subscribe, be my friend.